Hello everyone, welcome to New Gen Politics. Today I'd like to take a look at two articles that came out this week, both related to the ongoing military recruiting crisis. According to this article, the United States is set to enter 2024 with its smallest military in more than 8 decades, and faces one of its greatest challenges as it tries to boost recruiting from Gen Z, according to Pentagon officials. Under the $886 billion annual defense bill passed by Congress this week, total active duty troop numbers will fall to 1,284,500 next year. That is the lowest total since before the U.S. entered the Second World War in 1941, and officials said there should be a, quote, national call to service. Recent recruitment targets were missed by the Army, Navy, and Air Force, although the Marine Corps and the newly established Space Force reached their goals. And this week, Ashish Vazirani, the Pentagon's acting Undersecretary for Personnel and Readiness, told the House Armed Services Committee that the individual services missed the recruiting goals in 2023 by a combined 41,000 personnel. So this is not looking good for the U.S. military. We're losing numbers at a drastic rate. People aren't signing up, and for some reason the military doesn't really seem to understand what's going on. The Pentagon doesn't seem to understand the issues at play here, and they certainly can't find a solution. And throwing money at it doesn't seem to be working. Like most things, throwing money at the problem typically doesn't solve it. According to Vazirani, quote, that number underestimates the challenge before us as the services lowered end strength goals in recent years, in part because of the difficult recruiting environment. He said the all-volunteer force faces one of its greatest challenges since its inception in the 1970s when the draft ceased. So he says here, despite lowering the requirements for recruits, they're still not getting enough people who are volunteering to serve. So you're facing this two-pronged challenge, which is you're not getting enough recruits, and the recruits you're getting are worse than they used to be. So you're losing both quality and quantity over time at a rate that is not being replaced. The article goes on to say that military recruiters say Generation Z, those born between 1997 and 2012, generally have a low trust in institutions and have decreasingly followed traditional life and career paths. They have fewer relatives who served in the military, leading to less inclination to serve. And 2 decades ago, 25% of young people had never thought about joining the military, but that figure is now more than 50%. So it's doubled. Again, according to Vazirani, he says, quote, this has led to a disconnect between the military and a large share of society. Youth today are not saying no to what the military has to offer. They simply don't know much about military service. And that last point, I'm going to have to strongly disagree with. People understand what the military has to offer. They're just not buying. They don't want what the military offers. They don't like what the military offers. In the viewpoint of the average American youth, what the military offers is a career path for those who were unable to make it in college, who were unable to go into a trade, who do not have the financial backing to choose a more successful and more promising career path. To them, the military is reserved for those who failed at every avenue, is a place for poor people, is a place for dumb people. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that is the common perception. In the same way we judge people who go into trades, unrightfully so, we judge them for not going to college. Because the goal for a career path for most American youth now is go to high school, go to college, get a nice paying job at a company. And that emphasis on college, that if you don't go to college, you failed, that is a really strong emphasis that is put in place in modern American high schools. If you don't go to college, you have failed. That is the commonly held perception. And so, one, already the military looks bad. It's not some noble career path to people anymore. It's what you do when you have no other options. 2, the military does not pay very well. And despite throwing money at it, the amount of pay does not make up for what you have to go through. A contractual agreement for several years of your life that you can't back out of, terrible living conditions, terrible food, being told what to do 24/7, a loss of freedom. These things play into factors of serving or not serving. And if I can go to college, get paid more, and have the complete opposite of that experience, have freedom, better food, better opportunities, why would I not take that? And before we move on to the second article, I'd just like to say, if you like the content so far, please make sure you drop a like or comment, and make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content like this. So let's move on to this next article by The Hill, titled Ideology, Not Lack of Funds, is Behind Our Military's Recruiting Crisis. According to this article, America's military is in crisis. It's not one caused by the threat of a foreign adversary. Rather, the crisis we refer to is completely self-made and cannot be fixed by force. It is the fact that fewer and fewer young Americans are willing to sign up and join. As story after story points out, the US military currently cannot seem to find any remedies to turn its low recruitment numbers around. It has long been known that our country would be in trouble in the event of a major conventional war that required a draft. Some 77% of fighting-aged Americans would be ineligible for military service, according to the most recent numbers. As scary as that statistic is, its implications have so far been blunted by the comforting presence of our robust all-volunteer force. That is, till now. So that number, to me, is not surprising, 77%. Think of all the military-aged people in this country. How many are overweight? How many have health issues? How many have mental health issues? The vast majority. 77% sounds pretty accurate to me. So what do you do when you don't have people volunteering, but you can't even hold a draft because 77% of people wouldn't qualify to serve in the military? So you don't even have a population that's fit enough physically and mentally to serve, even if forced. So there's another problem there. This is a layered problem. It's not just, let's have a draft and then that'll fix our recruitment numbers. No, because you don't even have the people to draft because they're physically and mentally incapable of serving. And to that point, we know from every study ever conducted that volunteer soldiers are far superior to drafted soldiers. Drafted soldiers don't want to be there. They don't want to participate. They don't want to fight. So drafted soldiers would do basically everything they can to not participate. They'll try to get out of it. They'll do no work. They'll run away. They'll lie. They'll do everything in their power to get away from that. And you can't blame them for that. When you put somebody in an active combat situation under duress, how can you expect them to do what you want them to do? Especially when they don't have any sense of duty, any sense of a higher purpose, any loyalty or trust in the government. And you can't just say, oh, well, you should have those things, because that's not how that works. Those are things built on trust and purpose that are built over time. They're things that are earned, not demanded by another party. You can't demand someone's trust. You can't demand someone's respect and get it. And for some reason, some of these warmongering hawks think that you can, and you really, really can't. Let's continue on with this article. It should really come as no surprise that our current military is having trouble bringing in new recruits. The lingering impacts of politicized vaccine mandates, as well as story after story of troops being brainwashed with diverse ideologies like woke gender theory and critical race theory, are damaging morale and discouraging potential volunteers. President Biden's Pentagon brass seems more interested now in making sure that our military personnel are socially indoctrinated than that they are lethal. This obsession with radical politics is diverting our military from its primary purpose, its core mission, to confront and defeat America's enemies and defend our homeland, our interests, and our way of life. So that point about vaccine mandates is absolutely true. There was a huge drop in the amount of recruits signing up to join after the vaccine mandates rolled out, because that crossed a line. Already in the military, you have a substantial amount of your freedom taken away. But the fact that the government was able to force an experimental vaccine into your body, that crossed a line that scared many, many people away from the military. According to the article again, the military is trying to correct the problem by throwing more money at it in the form of bonuses. But all the money in the world is not worth doing a job you do not want to do. Putting your life on the line is not something most people just do for a paycheck. Those who treat it as such never stay long and they never go far. The question at hand is how we make the job something that people want to do again. Young people join the military and take the oath of enlistment because they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. The problem is now that that something bigger has become something entirely different than it used to be, and something entirely foreign to the average American. If we want to address our recruiting problem, we need to stop letting politics get in the way of what makes military service appealing to would-be recruits. So yeah, we need to get the politics out of the way, but the problem is this country is so politically motivated and so polarized in its beliefs that you can have one party with completely different ideals in power for 4 years and another party with the complete opposite ideals for the next 4 years. That instability creates a sense of fear that you're not going to overcome. So it's easy to say, remove the politicization from the military, but the military is an arm of the government. It is a tool to be wielded by the government. So as long as the government is corrupt at its core, that tool is a frightful thing to a lot of people. They are scared to be a part of it. They're scared what it'll be used for. And this concept of the military is something bigger. It used to be, but now most people see it, as I said earlier, it's a place for people who are dumb and poor. It's a place for deadbeats who have no prospects after their service is over, and the government won't take care of you, even though you sacrifice for them. And what doesn't help that case, or that point of view, is that over time we've lowered the requirements. So yes, less and less qualified people have joined the military, bringing its reputation down. It is no longer an institution of the elite. It's an institution of the bottom, an institution fueled by corruption and the lowest common denominator in a society. Now that is a very aggressive take, I understand, and it's not wholly true across the board. But the problem is you've allowed that perception to take root based on its equivalence to other career paths, its perception in the media, how the government handles it, how we take care of our veterans. All of those factors have played a role in diminishing the integrity of the military and how it's viewed. So both these articles paint a good picture of there is a serious problem. There's a serious recruiting problem. And the second article by The Hill is much better at saying this is a problem not because we don't have enough money. It's a politicized problem. It's a problem that goes much, much deeper than Gen Z being lazy. Or, oh, they just don't want to serve because they don't care about anything. Make them care. Give them reasons to want to defend their country. And here's another thing. Maybe if you're facing a recruiting crisis, don't start talking about going to war on 3 fronts. Don't start talking about sending troops to Ukraine, in Israel, in Taiwan. Because in the past, starting a war encouraged people to serve. You can see that trend when wars were started, people were more inclined to join. But in recent years, as the talk of war increases, the amount of recruits decreases because people are concerned about war. They're fine getting the benefits of the military, see it as a viable option in peacetime, but they don't actually want to sacrifice in wartime. So if you want to increase the amount of people in the military, you have to root out government corruption. You have to make America more isolationist and defensive. You need the military to not be seen as a tool of force solely for the objectives of a ruling class. It needs to be seen as a group of people formed for the interests and the defense of the people. It needs to be an institution with high requirements that's taken seriously. It needs to be a place that offers benefits substantial to its sacrifices. And right now, it's none of those things. So let me know down in the comments below what you think we can do today to solve this problem. And what do you think about these 2 articles? Do you think the points they make are correct? Do you agree with the issues causing this problem? Or do you think there's something else at play here? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.